I've only been part of CHP Canada for 5.5 years, so I'm relatively... You know, that confusion did that. Okay. I'm relatively new, and in a sense, I'm a bit of an outsider. That can be a good thing. The first CHP Canada event I went to was an Ontario Council meeting in my hometown of Ancaster. As time passed by, I became increasingly dissatisfied with the direction of the council meetings, where much of the time was spent discussing ideas of projects that never actually seemed to take place, debating politics that never resulted in action, or defending church doctrine and religious perspectives which benefited no one outside of the church walls. Being an action-minded type of person, I began to ask myself, why are we meeting? Why are some people driving many miles 3 times to 4 times a year to meetings out of which action does not result? An opportunity came where I submitted my name for Ontario Council President, not because I needed something to do in my spare time. I didn't have any spare time. I work in the engineering field. I don't work at this. It was because I wanted Ontario Council to be fruitful and meaningful and lead to action. I do not envision Ontario Council as another level of an EDA. I believe that CHP Canada's success or failure lies not only in our leader, but equally so in each EDA. Strong EDAs make a strong party, just as strong families create a strong and stable nation. So my vision is thriving Ontario EDAs. Are we there yet? For sure not. Are we beginning to head in the right direction? Some EDAs are. As the old saying goes, how do you eat an elephant? Anybody know how to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So we're on the second mouthful maybe now. We got a ways to go. What is a vision? A vision is a goal or plateau to aim for. What is a vision statement? A vision statement describes the vision. Vision statement. The vision statement focuses on the future. It's a source of inspiration and motivation. It's the ultimate goal. That's a vision. Ontario Council agreed that it was important for EDAs to have a vision statement to define their reason for being. And so this was what we put before them at our January Ontario Council meeting for their affirmation. So this is simply something that our executive suggested. EDA vision statement, Canadian governance based on Christian worldview, biblical principles. That's our ultimate goal in the future. Okay, so the vision statement was affirmed by attending EDA. So the EDAs in Ontario said, yeah, that's a good vision. That makes sense. However, a vision statement is not enough for success. We need to plan how to reach that goal. This is where an organization must determine their mission. What is a mission? A mission is a means to fulfill the vision. That guy has great vision, but how does he plan to get there? A mission statement describes the various actions or steps of fulfilling the vision. Oh, now I see. That guy not only has a great vision, he also has a plan to get there. Now I'm interested. Mission statement. The mission statement concentrates on the present. What are we going to do today to get over there? In broad terms, it tells how to fulfill the vision. It ties back to the core values. We can never depart from our core values. Any of our missions steps have to tie back to the core values of who we are, of who Christian Heritage Party is. When we're doing our planning and so on, it doesn't hurt to keep that page in front of you. Are we doing everything within our core values, and are we heading towards our vision? In other words, we get off on all kinds of tangents, all over the place, all over the map, would have, should have, and could have, still can't buy a donut. You know, it's good to have something in front of you and ask yourself, how are we proceeding along the way? Ontario Council Executive agreed that it's important to have a mission statement. So the EDAs, so our Ontario Council Executive agreed that it was important for EDAs to have a mission statement to describe the various actions or steps of fulfilling their vision. And so this is what we put before them at our January Ontario Council meeting for their affirmation. So we, as an executive, we met and we said, we're going to put something out there. We're going to get their feedback. So here's our suggested EDA mission statement. As prioritized from Article 3 of the CHP Canada Constitution. Yep, that was in our January meeting, sir. Thank you very much, Lethbridge. The aim of the party is A. Boing. To provide true Christian leadership and to defend, promote, and uphold biblical principles in federal legislation. This is the top priority for all CHP Canada EDAs. This is what the blue is out of the Constitution. The red is just my silly things to say. B, there's 3 parts to this Constitution, this part of the Constitution, Article 3A, A3, sorry. Number 2, priority, to gain seats in Parliament so that we can have a direct influence on policy and policy changes. More focus may be on this during election seasons. And then Part C of the Constitution, Article A3, is to contend and attain the leadership of the federal government of Canada through the existing democratic process. Now, when we presented it before them, this mission statement was affirmed by the EDAs represented. And what I didn't put in here, and I should have, the emphasis wasn't on those three parts of our mission. The emphasis was they're in that priority. What happened was there was a period of time where some felt that CHP was spending a lot of time trying to be the government. And some of us would say, way ahead of time, we hadn't fulfilled the initial steps. And not enough effort on being light and salt in our communities and influencing, even though not being the government, still being an influence on things that are happening in this world. And so Lethbridge had asked that we go back to the Constitution, agree with the Constitution what it says, but in the order that it says it. And when I presented that day, I did make that clear. I should have made it clear. It's about the prioritizing of things. Okay? So I hope I shouldn't say any more because then you're going to wonder what I said in the first place. Yeah. So they affirmed it, and they affirmed it in that priority. Having affirmed the vision and mission statements for CHP Canada Ontario Council. So that's the vision and mission statement for EDAs. The next step was to determine and affirm the vision and mission statements for CHP Canada Ontario Council. You say, well, they're different? Yes. In Ontario, we've made them different. We don't see the council as an EDA. When I first came in, it was trying to act like another EDA. What was actually happening, if I can be really blunt about it, EDAs weren't doing everything. They're waiting for Ontario Council to do it for them. And that's not the way it works. EDAs be EDAs, you'll see. What was the purpose of Ontario Council? Was it simply another EDA format trying to achieve some sort of political status at an Ontario level? Our Ontario Council executive discussed this at length and proposed the following to EDA representatives at the same Ontario Council meeting. So now we're talking about Alberta Council, who we are today. What is the function of Alberta Council? And I don't mean the only function. Obviously, there's functions described within the Constitution. I understand that. I'm just trying to bring a focus, that's all. I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't do the things in the Constitution. Not at all. Suggested Ontario Council vision statement. Vision. Thriving Ontario EDA shining the Christian light on governance between elections. We put that in front of the Ontario Council and said, we think this is a good vision statement. Like, I'd like to be president of a province where EDAs are shining the light and they're active and they're going. That's what. If I can achieve that, I think I've done a good job. If EDAs are on their own and doing a great job, that's my vision. So we put that out there. Note that in our suggesting, we were not confining our Christian light to federal governance only. We were suggesting governance in general, at any level, at any time, and every opportunity, being fully Christian and contending for the Christian worldview and principles as need arises. Perhaps today we live in a culture that needs the Christian light more than ever before. Some would say, why don't you pack it in? The world's getting away on you. No, the darker it gets, the more the light is needed. In his book, You Can't Stay Silent, Tom Minery writes, Christianity is no mere protest movement. In our country, the blessings of security were secured for all, and Christian people have equal opportunity to set good public policy, not merely protest after bad public policy has been set. Way to go, Tom. In Ontario, we very much want our EDAs to come out of being silent between elections and be vocal lights in the community in which they exist, taking advantage of their opportunity to participate at the public table and set good public policy at all levels, rather than protest after bad policy has been set. So we put forward the vision that I showed you, and we all discussed it, and it was rejected. But you'll see why. It was revised. Watch this. And it made my heart dance when they said it. No, we said, we want to change it a little bit. So it's exactly the same. It says governance. It says Thriving Ontario, shining the Christian light on governance and culture between elections. And I said, yes. Better. That's what I wanted, but I was afraid to go that far because I thought they'd go after me. And they brought it forward and they said, and culture. We have to engage the culture. Those in attendance believe it was not enough to shine the Christian light on governance alone. They also felt it was important to shine into the culture which pervades our society. It's not likely that we'll see a positive move in Canada toward Christian worldview, Christian governance, before there is a change in the minds and hearts of Canadians. So simply attempting to impose such governance against the thinking of the culture may be futile. Let us shine into the culture as well as on governance. So what is the mission of Ontario Council in order to achieve the vision of Thriving Ontario EDAs, shining the Christian light on governance and culture between elections? How do we plan to get there? Ontario Council mission statement. Fan the flames in Ontario EDAs by encouraging, motivating, and providing support. So I see our task, and again, to be clear, I'm saying in addition to what's in the Constitution. I'm not saying that we don't have other things to do. But I see our task of sharing, helping EDAs be strong, bringing ideas to them if they need them, finding out what one EDA is doing so you can bring it to the other EDA. Helping us all get together, but doing our own things in our own communities, but encouraging people, fanning the flames. You guys got the coals and you guys got the flame going, then we're going to blow the air on it. But if there's no life, we can't help you. If you're just dead coals laying on the ground, Ontario Council can't revive you. But if you're doing something, then I see my job is to help encourage that, move that along. Ontario Council is not another level of an EDA with separate projects and goals. It's a body and a forum by which EDAs encourage, motivate, and support each other. Of course, Ontario Council has other tasks to be carried out, such as preparing for convention and such. However, if our focus is only internal with CHP, then I believe we miss the need to be at the public table and engaging our culture. Honestly, if our EDAs are struggling without a vision and a mission, they will eventually perish. And that's my deepest concern. If we continue to lose EDAs one by one, which is currently happening in some EDAs in Canada, CHP Canada soon too will. If EDAs one by one drop out, eventually CHP Canada will drop as well. Here in Alberta, you may wish to consider your EDA visions and your missions, and also your Alberta Council vision and mission. Are there any in place now? What are they? Are you staying on the path to fulfill them? Do your current visions and missions need to be revisited? If there are not visions and missions, then is now the time to determine them. I leave this in your hands. This is a two-part presentation. In closing to this first part, I offer you with another quote from Tom Minery in his book, Why We Can't Stay Silent. One more quote. Being salt and light in this age means contending responsibly for godly standards wherever they are under assault. This explains why there is no truth to the cliche that you shouldn't mix religion and politics. That tired slogan is usually offered by those in politics who resent having moral pressure brought against them. Or it is voiced by religious people who don't like the discomfort of exposing the deepest beliefs to ridicule and rejection. There is no escaping the mixture of religion and politics because nearly every law is a result of someone's judgment about what is good and bad. So why not our voice too? Tom Minery, Why You Can't Stay Silent. Way to go, Tom, again. Okay, move on. Great. Setting goals for your EDA. Okay, prior to becoming part of CHP Canada in 2010, when we restarted the Hamilton Mountain EDA, which had folded, or we gave it life again. Prior to that, I had been involved for 13 years leading the Hamilton Wentworth Family Action Council, of which I continue to serve as president. I've learned a few things leading the council, and one of the things I learned is success rarely, if ever, comes without action. Kind of simple, isn't it? How many here today would agree with that? Success rarely ever comes without action. Well, there was two fellows that met at a high school convention, or high school reunion. And one guy was very, very successful, and the other guy was failed in his marriage, failed in his business, everything failed. And he said, the guy who wasn't doing well, he said, "How did you do so well? Everything's so good in your life." He said, "It's all luck." "Really? You got to be kidding." "No," he said, "It's all luck." He said, Oh, one other thing. He said, "One thing I've learned, the harder I work, the luckier I get." Perhaps a more biblical way of saying this is, you cannot reap where you do not sow. How many people would agree with that? You cannot reap where you do not sow. I like the way Dr. Charles Stanley puts it. You reap what you sow, more than you sow, and later than you sow. If any of you owns a business which has been successful, profitable, I think it would be safe to say that a big part of the success is that you invested time and effort over a long period of time. I imagine you probably set goals for the business and increased those goals over time. Maybe I'm wrong. Has anyone here run a successful business or know anyone who's run a successful business that did not invest time and effort into it? Did not set goals for the business? Personally, I don't know anybody like that. If we think about it, an EDA is really a business. We are marketing a product, are we not? So if this is true, then your EDA business needs a marketing plan, an ongoing effort. As much as we might not like to admit it, running a successful EDA requires a consistent and ongoing effort, just like any successful business would. Of course, I do realize that running an EDA is volunteer hours, and so cannot consume all of our waking hours. And I believe in balance. People have seen my emails. Balance your life. Balance yourself. Keep in balance. Don't get out of balance. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I have learned over my years that I must maintain balance between my employment, which actually pays my bills, my personal family life, and my community efforts. That is why it's good to build a team around you of like-minded thinkers, prayer partners, phone callers, chair and table setup people, coffee makers, and so on. I often warn people, maintain balance. Of course, pastors wouldn't know anything about that. You know, pastors carry the tremendous weight on them, and it's so hard for them to maintain balance. But we have to. If we're going to survive, if we're going to be good to anybody, we have to keep balance in our life. We restarted our EDA in August of 2010 because I had not ever attended an EDA meeting prior. I took prior to me taking it I took it in a direction I had been used to for several years. So I'd never been in an EDA meeting before. I'd only been to Ontario Council meetings. So I just took over and I said, well, here we go. I just did what I was used to. Together we would discuss the issues of the day and how we as a group would take action of one sort or another. Perhaps a billboard campaign, or bus shelters and flyers, or presentation at Queen's Park City Hall, or letter to an MP, or a newspaper, or join a life chain. The point was we were either planning a campaign or carrying one out. Typically we meet 4 times a year as an EDA, and the executive meets 4 times a year to plan each meeting. As time progressed, I was invited to speak to other EDAs. And I was invited to speak to other EDAs. I began to learn that other EDAs met only once a year. I wondered how one keeps interest and momentum meeting just once a year. If your EDA is like that, perhaps your first goal should be to meet 2 or 3 times a year, and not meet simply for the sake of a meeting. We don't need another meeting. We need to do something. Meet to set goals. And meet to achieve the goals. Then meet to set new goals. So my brief talk today is to assist you in this, providing some guidelines to setting goals. Part of what I will share in PowerPoint is from an EDA presentation on the CHP Hamilton Mountain. So we always have a presentation now in EDA. Now that I've got a PowerPoint projector and everything's on PowerPoint. There's always a presentation about something. So this is actually coming right out of my Hamilton Mountain presentation. Setting goals for your EDA. Goals should be attainable. Very important. Don't set goals that aren't likely to reach, because people become discouraged when they're not met. In setting goals as an executive, suggest 2 or 3 goals for your membership to consider, but encourage them to provide input that helps them take ownership. If you march in and say, this is what we're doing, folks, they'll say, okay, go and do it. However, here's some thoughts we had. What do you think about them? Well, I like them, sort of, but I think we could do it that way. Great, you'll do that for me? Thank you. Yeah. You have an idea? Thanks for carrying that out for me. That's great. What can happen if we do not plan well and maintain balance is that we can tend to set over lofty goals. Example, our goal this year is to establish 10 new EDA plants in our surrounding area and persuade the MP to lower taxes in Alberta. Wonderful goals, while they're likely achievable. If we set lofty goals and fail to meet them, then discouragement can set in. Consider setting goals that will stretch you, but not break you. It's not productive to call an EDA meeting, but not have any ideas or goals you may consider setting. I'll say that again, I got dinged out there. It's not a productive plan to call an EDA meeting, but not have any ideas or goals you may consider setting. It can often lead to a pile of ideas, but no decision. So it's good for an executive to come in with 2 or 3 ideas to begin with. Help to keep the focus. Rather than walking, I haven't got a clue what we're going to do this year. Anybody have a clue? That's not a good way to start. We really encourage you to meet as an executive and assemble 2 or 3 goals for all to consider. Then break those attending the EDA meeting into small groups of 8 or 10. And have each small group come up with their favorite 3 ideas and rank them in order of preference. They could include the 3 already suggested concepts or ideas, or they could come up with 3 of their own or any combination. Give them not more than 15 minutes to do this. So we do this quite regularly. Break into small groups. They brainstorm for 15 minutes. They come back. You got to make it go. All our meetings are an hour and 45 minutes. They start on time, they end on time. When the membership provides the ideas, they are more likely to take ownership in seeing it completed. Does that make sense? If it's my idea, if I really like it, I'm more likely to pursue it. Ask your membership to provide concrete examples. Once you've got the ideas up there, ask them in the second part of the small group session, ask your membership to provide concrete examples of what will it take to attain these goals. So first of all, they list their goals, 2 or 3. Then they have to provide concrete examples of what it will take to reach those goals. And here comes the best part of all. Ask your membership what part they will personally play in attaining these goals. And that's what we do. When they have completed their 15 minutes of choosing goals, allow them 10 minutes to provide concrete examples of what it will take to attain these goals. This will help them to visualize the task at hand and perhaps begin to see that to accomplish the goal, it will take a team effort. Then allow 5 minutes to consider what part they will personally play in attaining these goals. This is where they see the role that they can play as a team member. They're seeing it in their mind. They're running it through their mind. They're seeing them doing something, where they're going to fit in. If an organization tends to grow, it must spread the workload with like-minded supporters. Those who want to see things accomplished must also contribute with the talents and resources. It's not enough for one to say what should be done without being prepared to do something themselves. Following the small group discussions, come back as a large group and then have each small group report the results of their discussions regarding their top 2 or 3 goals, what it will take to achieve these goals, and what part they will personally play. In January of 2016, we did this in Hamilton. So I would like to share with you as a concrete example. I would like to share this with you. So here are the 3 goals that were first of all suggested by our executive. So we put something out there to get the wheels rolling. CHP Hamilton Mountain Goals for 2016. Number 1. Oh, lovely. There's something. Increased membership. Yeah. I see it. That's motivating. That's a good goal. For us, we live in a city. Bus shelter flyer community outreach. Luke was born today, but his life began 9 months ago. That's an actual image of 4 bus shelters that we did in the Hamilton Mountain. Virgin, it's not a dirty word. CHP, message from the CHP Party of Canada. We haven't done this one. I'm just throwing thoughts at that one we've done. This one we haven't done. We may not do. I'm just giving you some thought-provoking ideas. Okay? So number 2 was, our second goal was to have another bus shelter community outreach. We've done them consistently for 4 years straight now. And our third mentioned goal was to consider reach out to younger people. Yeah. How many people would like to see that at your EDA meeting? Would you like to see that at your EDA meeting? Is that a good goal? Sure it is. But we were just putting them out. So we put them on a piece of paper, broke them in groups, said there's 3 to think about. You come up with 3. But here's what we came up with. So they submitted, then I went through and I took the count, which came higher on the list, which came next on the list, which came next on the list. Number 1 was increased membership. Yes, good goal. And everybody in the room, the majority of people said that's what they want for their number 1 goal. Great. But guess what? I didn't tell them that. That's what they said. And what did they say? What was their concrete ways of doing that? How? Speak with people we come in contact with when the topic of governance arises. Ask them to join you at the next meeting. Share with them reasons why you are a CHP member. Provide reasons to join CHP. Change. It truly helps people. The world system is broken. These are the kinds of things that our membership is submitting to us. We're not done yet. More ideas is coming in from these people of what they're going to do personally. Network within our churches or interchurch networks. Speak at citywide pastors' meetings. Network with pro-life groups. Topical posters in churches during the year. This came up, and I didn't write it, somebody else wrote this. Make attainable goals. Invite your candidate or your CEO to speak to a group you are a part of. Great. So that's what came out of our meeting. Some of those things have already been done. I've invited into high school since that point in time. I've invited into young adult groups. Some of these things are happening. People are talking to other people and so on. Because it was their idea, they're going to probably work on it more than if I told them this is what you have to do. Number 2, what was their second goal? Become visible on social media in addition to the current website. So we've had a website. Within 3 months of being an EDA, we had a website, and it's still up. They wanted to see more. So someone said, how? They said, establish a website. I said, well, we've had one since 2010. Oh. Well, here's one where I got snowed under because I can hardly turn on my computer. Use Facebook, Twitter, which also introduces people to the EDA to the EDA website. Now it's done. How'd that happen? Well, I said, I'm not doing it. I don't know how. So this guy comes up to me after the meeting. Never met him before. I have talked to him on the phone once. I'm 70 years old. I'm a retired electronics expert. I taught in Sheridan College, electronics. I specialize in social media. I'd love to do your Facebook and Twitter for you. Well, you have to do an integrity analysis, no problem. If you do it, I got to be a controller. If I don't like what you do, I'm going to shut you down. No problem. It's up and running. Right? People came forward. If I tried to learn it all, I'd still be trying to learn it all, and we wouldn't get anything done. So that was done. And then the third goal they had, reach out to younger people. How? Speaking engagement in the Catholic high schools. That hasn't happened yet. I haven't been asked yet. Speaking engagements in the Christian schools. That has happened. And then moving down to goals 4 and 5. A practical approach. Disseminate political answers of CHP for public life. So sometimes there's these issues going on, and we're not saying tell people what they have to believe, but let's show them what the CHP response to that answer is. Share it with the public. They can give them a chance to say no. You know, at least let them hear it. And number 5, establish more EDAs in the Hamilton area. So we'd like to have 3 right around me. And I'm working at that. One way we're doing that is that people come to our EDA usually there's about 2 or 3 different groups of people coming from Stony Creek, from Ancaster. They're coming as far away as Burlington, which is about a 40-minute drive, about 3 EDAs away. They're coming in. I'm encouraging them, like you guys are doing, talking about setting up funding. They're coming in and joining our EDA because it's a step. They're learning how an EDA could run, and eventually, if they gather 10 or 15 people, go plant yourself. I mean in a nice way. Go get going. And ominously, I don't want to remain the CEO of my EDA. I want to start another one. I want someone to rise up so I can move into where I actually live. I don't even live in Hamilton. So these 5 goals came with some how-dos, came from one EDA meeting over a total time of about 1 hour. Don't you think that's a pretty productive 1 hour? Now comes the work. Well, that's my next meeting in June. Okay, folks, this is what you said. How you've been doing it, all these things. I'll go back, put it all back up. How many people are doing this? How many people are doing that? Well, you haven't? Oh. What are you looking for? And that's the way I go. And we just keep moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. So we spoke in a Christian high school in January. We spoke in the church young adults group in February. We created a CHP Hamilton Mountain Facebook in February, and also a CHP Hamilton Mountain Twitter account. I think that's a pretty productive meeting. Some pretty productive things came out of it from 1 hour of chatting. Our next EDA meeting is scheduled for June, where we will discuss our next steps and hopefully for a plan to deal with the City of Hamilton's decision to allow males to use public female washrooms, changes, and showers. Separate presentation altogether. We're already deep into the midst of that. We haven't had the June meeting yet. My intent of this presentation was to provide some thoughts on determining a vision, establishing a mission, and then from those setting goals for your EDA. I trust that you are at least inspired to consider your EDA, why it exists, and what you would like it to become. It's fine to talk about one day forming the federal government. However, what realistically moving toward that vision is quite another matter. I close with this question. How do we expect to reap where we do not sow? So, questions or comments? Thoughts? Fronts?
How many people come typically to your, if you talk about EDA meeting, are you talking about the board meeting of the EDA?
No.
Or everybody?
EDA meetings. Like, EDA means anybody and everybody that wants to come. Even conservatives come to our meetings. When we do our bus shelters, over half our money comes from conservatives writing checks to CHP because the conservatives won't do it. So everybody who's like-minded can come to our meetings. How many people come? Over the year, for the first 4 years, probably 15 or 17 people. But we've done major projects, and now it's starting to build. I think we had about 35 at the last one, and I'm starting to see faces I've never seen before. They're coming in. They're coming younger. They're coming wanting to do something. So, like I said, one bite at a time, we're getting that elephant down.
Just for the sake of having a smaller entity to plan things, do you also have your EDA board meetings beside that?
Prior to every EDA meeting, we have an executive meeting. I have my board, about 5. I only have 2 people official on the board, but 3 that come because of regular. They help me through my election period. Right. Yeah. So we plan that EDA meeting together. We sit together. We write up the agenda. We agree on what we're going to do, how we're going to get there. So for every meeting, there's a meeting before that to set up that meeting.
Yeah, and then about 3 to 4 per year is what you aim for.
3 to 4. With the election, it was a little challenge last year. I think I lost one of them because we had the election season. But this year, we still plan to have 4.
Okay. Yeah, that answers my question.
So what you're saying then is that to form an EDA, people who want to join an EDA do not even necessarily have to have a Christian Heritage Party membership?
Well, not quite. That's not what I'm saying. So to form an EDA, you only need... how do I form an EDA? You need 2 people. One to be the CEO. With Elections Canada, there's only 2 things that you need. One to be the CEO. No, I only have 2. 2 is all that's required. It's all we've ever had. With Elections Canada, I only have 2 people registered. One to be the CEO, the president. One to be the CFO. And those are the only 2 people you have to have. That's all I've ever had. And those 2 people actually sign on with Elections Canada. I am the CEO. I am the CFO. So Elections Canada can say, okay, who are we going to shoot when this thing doesn't work? Okay? Other ones, if you want to have directors and secretaries and so on, those are great things to have and recommended within the Constitution that you go wider. But to start up, we said there's 2 of us, let's get started. And then, but then there was members already on the Hamilton Mountain. This had been a collapsed EDA. So we just called them again, said, we're starting again, come on out. Does that help? And when you go to start, Kevin, like you would contact Rose or National Office and say, I need to know that I want a list of all the members in my electoral district association. So right away you've got a startup list of people you can call. You don't have to go and say, by the way, were you a member of CHP and knock on every door in Edmonton? There's already a list of people who are members in the area to get you started.
maybe more relevant to Edmonton because there's so many ridings close together. Like you said, you don't live in Hamilton Mountain, but that's the riding you started.
Yeah.
How did that get decided that was the one? Why was it there?
Two reasons. Hamilton had been an EDA, and it had only been closed for a couple of years. So that's easier to start perhaps than one that's never been in place before. And the second reason is I did live on the Hamilton Mountain for 25 years. I was in Ancaster, lived 25 years on the Hamilton Mountain, moved back to Ancaster. But during that 25 years, I ran the Hamilton Wentworth Family Action Council, so we had a presence in Hamilton. What we've been doing was known by people on the Hamilton Mountain. So it was a better way to go. And from my place to get to the church is 5 minutes. I can drive across our entire EDA in 5 minutes. So it's a whole different world. I mean, yeah.
For 2 of the 3 hours we were driving up here, I was still in my riding.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a whole, and I recognize that. It's a whole, when you see bus shelters, I'm not asking Neerlandia to do bus shelters, because as I explained to them, they're going to have to build the bus shelters before they put the posters on them. But that's not to say there aren't other things that are effective in your community. The letter to the editor in a small community is powerful, and Hamilton doesn't mean a thing. It's because it's all covered in advertising. The paper's junk now. It used to be really effective years ago. Now it's all full of advertising. You have to find the letter to the editor page, and it's somewhere underneath the Loblaws and Safeway commercials. But so the things that we can do, the things that you can do, it's different. You're still a small community. You can still post something on the community board and at the post office or things like that. So those are things that you do.
You also said it doesn't have to be federal items we always have to be involved in as a CHP.
No.
At the local level, so would you also get involved? Yeah, you talk on a regular basis about your provincial premier.
Yeah.
Of Ontario. So you, if there's hot provincial.
I write to our premier on.
You're reacting there too.
Well, I write to the premier and I copy all my MPPs and so on, and I put Jim Mean as President, Ontario Council, CHP Canada. I presented at Queen's Park in Toronto on the provincial bill on Safe Schools Act, which is really an Unsafe Schools Act, but I presented at Queen's Park. And I was for Christian Heritage Party of Canada. Sure, I was welcome to present. So yeah, I live in Ontario. I pay taxes in Ontario. What? Now I can't talk? So yeah, and now we're going after the bathroom issue. Now I'll be specific about this. Going after men going into the women's washrooms and so on. It's a provincial issue, but not really. We think that the municipalities interpret the Human Rights Code incorrectly. We believe that it's still against the law in Ontario. It's still trespassing. It's still on the books as trespassing. You're in an area of the public where you don't belong. A man doesn't belong. So there's lots of grounds for what we're saying. But I'm not fighting it officially from CHP Canada. All the people from CHP in our area are with me on it, but I'm doing it under the banner of the Hamilton Wentworth Family Action Council. Why? Because a councillor told me, don't ever send me an email from CHP Canada. I'm a conservative. I won't work for you. Send it from Hamilton Wentworth Family Action Council. I'm on your side. So whatever works. Whatever works. So if you're down here and you're living in Red Deer, it's a Red Deer Family Action Council addressing this situation. Why not? Why not? You know what? You think all these things that happen in this world, you don't think the NDP has 50 different names it operates under? They're trustees. They're councillors. They're everything. They just don't say it in the meeting, but they're there on an NDP agenda, and we have our agenda. We can do it with all kinds of different names. Put all the names on it that you want. It doesn't matter.
Me again.
Yeah. That's okay.
Hey, I really appreciate I've had a reframing happen in part of this, and you made me feel really guilty because, as you said, Lethbridge has kind of been at the forefront of in the CHP conversation about the number one priority staying the number one priority. But you've been talking about all this stuff, not necessarily federal matters, but the involvement that we as CHP members can have as individuals, wherever.
Right.
And I think we're all doing that. I mean, I'm a Christian school principal, so all of this stuff about transgender rights and bathrooms and Bill Can and whatever in Alberta, I've been heavily involved in that, but I've had that as two separate silos in my head. There's CHP stuff, and then there's other stuff I'm doing for other reasons. And actually, it's all CHP business.
It's all Christian business, being light in our community.
Business. What comes to my mind is a quote from Chuck Colson, in the U.S. thinker and speaker, of course. But he says politics is downstream from culture. So to affect change in politics, you have to have people with you, and to have people with you, you have to change their minds. And that doesn't happen by politicking, that happens at the other end. But that's still part of our work as politics. So thank you for provoking that mental shift, and I hope you put it into action.
Okay, great. This is Sebastian. Sebastian put together... Sebastian and his wife, and I'm sure his family is involved, he put together a powerful meeting in Edmonton on, was it Tuesday night? Wednesday night? Yeah, I'm getting numb. Wednesday night. But this guy did the work. And I'm going to tell you too, Sebastian's also bringing people who come from other countries, other cultures. He's reaching into other communities, but with the same message. So, good guy, Sebastian. Yeah.
When you have a CHP Canada federal party, legally are we permitted to address the provincial issues?
Okay, so we, as a federal party, we can't sit at a table and vote on a provincial issue. But there's nothing restricting us as people from being active in whatever goes on in our community. There's no legal restrictions on a federal party making comments on provincial issues. We're not going to go to jail here. We're not going to lose our party funding. We're not going to... People will try to... It's kind of like trying to separate the church and the state. Like, you guys stay out of this. Okay? So you have to decide... Like when I went to Queen's Park, I went to CHP Canada. I applied under that. They could have denied me, right? The province could have said, you're a federal party. They didn't. They said, you're welcome to come and speak. No one's ever said to me, you can't say that. But, so, no, there's nothing, I don't think, not that I'm aware of, I don't think a CHP can be defunded for having position on wind turbines in a certain township. We can still present our position on behalf of CHPers that live in that township. We can still express our position. I've never been told that that's against the law. You can't do that. Does that help? Yeah. Yes, you can comment and provide comment. What you want to be wise about is look at the setting you're going into and decide whether it's best to go as CHP or is it best to go as a Family Action Council. You have to decide on the situation that's going on. If you're dealing with a city situation, ask a city councillor that you're going to find a friend somewhere at city council. Ask him his advice. How should I come? Should I come as a Family Action Council? Should I come as CHP Canada? And he'll tell you. And then follow his advice. Okay? No, I never come as an individual because they're always looking for, who are you representing? So I always come representing somebody, someone, some group. So on the bathroom issue, before I came up here, I sent an email. I've been staying on, I don't want to go too long on that, but I've been on that for 3 years now. Before I came up, I sent an email to the mayor about a comment he had made. And he sent me an email. I sent it to 600 people. And then I put it on Facebook. And then the point is that I'm doing it through the Family Action Council. Because I believe that the issue of washrooms is very important to the people of Hamilton. It's not simply a federal issue. This is something that's affecting our daily lives. And one other thing I should say on that, when we do things like that, when we take stances on things that are on public decency, not only are we helping people that go to church, we're helping the entire community. And the entire community will appreciate us for having taken that stand. There'll be a few that don't, obviously, if they take it. But not many have said to me, Jim, I really want men to shower with my daughters. Even in the secular world, they're on our side. So we do a service to the whole community when we stand up for what's right. So think about that.
Jim, you said you were actually a little bit of an outsider. Like you just became involved in CHP only, what did you say?
5.5 years, yeah.
5.5 years ago. Just interesting for us who have been in CHP longer to see how an outsider becomes an insider. what has happened in all these years before? Like, were we visible somehow? Where did we become visible enough that you said, hey, we should become involved?
I wasn't all political minded, honestly. But the council, I had enough to do already with taking on school boards, city hall, and other things. So I didn't really think about party lines too much. I think I was probably just conservative. I don't know even honestly when I became aware of CHP. Somewhere I did. I would say probably in my 40s. But if the Conservatives, when they finally gave the $400,000 to Gay Pride, I said, I've got to go somewhere else. And there just happened to be a meeting coming up in a couple of weeks later, coming to Ancaster, where Ontario Council was meeting. So that's the first time I ever went into anything that was CHP. So I came in as an outsider.
Right. So you were a member for a while already? For some time? You had been a member?
Now, I walked into a CHP Ontario Council meeting as a member of the Conservative Party.
Oh, interesting.
My point. Then I saw the light. That's my point. Like-minded people can attend, not necessarily members. They can't vote, but they can attend.
Absolutely.
That's like saying only Christians can come in our church. Okay. Go with that. See how that goes.